Tubman, a prominent name that has permeated all throughout African American slavery and still impacts individuals to this day. A name that has survived despite the innumerable amounts of forgotten slaves. Harriet Tubman was a renowned abolitionist, woman suffragist, humanitarian, and a remarkable leader. Her story starts sometime around 1820 in Dorchester County, Maryland. Her birth name was Araminta Ross that was given to her by her two slave parents, Harriet Ross and Benjamin Green. For her parents' statuses were slaves, she too was inevitably born under slavery. While she was born on the farm of Anthony Thompson, she was subsequently hired out as a child to neighboring plantations, such as the James Cook home, under dangerous conditions. By the young age of 12, she was working as a field laborer. As she became a teenager, she suffered a severe injury to the head that would affect her for the rest of her life. The incident consisted of Harriet sacrificing herself in order to protect a young slave that was fleeing the scene. In order to prevent that, a slave overseer had thrown a heavy iron that had instead hit Harriet on the head. The weight nearly crushed her skull and left a deep scar. Never fully recovering from the damage to her brain and skull, along with little medical care, she suffered from narcolepsy and seizures throughout her whole life. In addition, she started getting strange, vivid dreams which she believed was God's way of communicating with her. She took this negative incident and interpreted it positively as a symbol for a way to help other slaves achieve freedom. In 1844, she married a free black man named John Tubman and took his last name. While she changed her last name, she also changed her first name to Harriet, her mother's name. In 1849, Harriet was determined to escape her life of slavery and risked her life making her way from Maryland to Philadelphia. When she had made this decision, her husband had not accompanied her. She had reportedly followed the North Star in the sky and used the Underground Railroad as a guide towards freedom. Ironically, the Underground Railroad was in fact not an actual railroad, nor was it underground. It is a name for an organized group who helped slaves escape to the north with the use of secret routes and safe houses. One of the very first safe houses was the Jacob Jackson home site. Jacob Jackson was a free black man, and his land had helped Harriet in escaping with her fellow fugitives. Moreover, almost all of the landscape in Dorchester County was infamously known as the escape routes for those involved in the Underground Railroad. When Harriet Tubman found out that she had crossed the Mason-Dixon line and she was free, she said, "I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person now that I was free. There was such glory over everything. The sun came up like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven." After arriving at a free state, she had successfully made associates in New York that would ultimately help her in rescuing her own family and other members of slavery. Once She desperately wanted freedom for the rest of her family and returned to Maryland. With the help of her new acquaintances, she made trips back to free her 2 brothers, her sister, and her sister's 2 children. On her 3rd trip to bring her husband, she found out that he had found himself a new wife. Although her purpose for that trip was to bring her husband along with her, she was not discouraged by her new foundings and instead used that opportunity to free more slaves. All in all, Harriet made 19 trips to Maryland and helped 300 people to freedom. Her legendary way of aiding people to freedom earned her the nickname as the Modern Moses. One advice that Harriet Tubman stated was, "If you hear the dogs, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If they're shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop, keep going. If you want a taste of freedom, keep going." During the Civil War, she served as a spy, nurse, and cook for the Union, and was the first woman in American history to lead a military expedition. She assisted the Union Army by gathering key information about the Confederate positions and advised them the best way to attack that would eventually result in the freedom for hundreds of slaves. After the war ended, Harriet had tried to receive government compensation for her contribution in assisting the war. It was known that she had desired this money in order to help those who were just liberated and had nothing to live off of. In the course of this period, she had remarried to Nelson Davis, a veteran of the Union Army. The couple later adopted a daughter named Gertie. Shortly thereafter, however, Davis had died to his declining health. It was only then when Harriet had reportedly received $8 in pension, which later increased to $20 a month for her own involvement in the war. Besides Harriet being a liberator for slavery, she was also in support of anti-slavery and women's rights. Harriet spent her money and devoted her life to building schools and furthering the cause for women's suffrage, along with Susan B. Anthony. In 1908, a home called the Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged was named in her honor. This home fulfilled Harriet's dreams of opening a home for poor and elderly African Americans. By 1911, Harriet's body was so frail she ended up moving into the home named in her honor. She lived there until her death in 1913 from pneumonia. She was buried with full military honors at Fort Hill Cemetery in Auburn. Harriet Tubman was well respected and widely known while she was alive and continues to be an American icon today. Through her bravery and determination, she has inspired generations of African Americans, setting the path of civil rights in the United States. She was a born protector, starting from the time she saved another slave by getting hit from an iron weight to her very last breath, where she was helping those who were less fortunate. Her legacy still lives on to this day and impacts the everyday lives of Americans. To honor her selfless acts of kindness, the President of the United States, Barack Obama, and Congress members have designed a national monument solely for Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. President Barack Obama describes her perfectly when he says, "Harriet Tubman is an American hero. She was born enslaved, liberated herself, and returned to the area of her birth many times to lead family, friends, and other enslaved African Americans north to freedom. Harriet Tubman fought tirelessly for the Union cause, for the rights of enslaved people, for the rights of women, and for the rights of all. She was a leader in the struggle for civil rights who was forever motivated by her love of family and community and by her deep and abiding faith." The first artifact that pertains to Harriet Tubman is a firearm. Once a slave committed to a Tubman escaped, he was committed to freedom or death. On several occasions, slaves collapsed, said they were tired, sick, or scared. Harriet always cocked her revolver and said, "You go on or die. Dead Negroes tell no tales." Harriet Tubman's favorite hymns are indicated in this book. It is evident which hymns were her particular favorite, as it will open to certain pages when gently opened. Harriet was known to sing a variety of songs to signal escaping slaves of the dangers lying ahead. Through this, most slaves knew the secret meanings of each specific song. I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. This quote is essential in showing Tubman's willingness to sacrifice herself for the sake of others. With her strong will, she used every opportunity to free others and fight for their right. This reveals the period when slavery existed and how the slaves themselves were oblivious to the victimization. This is a general affidavit written by Harriet Tubman which outlines her responsibilities during the war. Although Harriet was illiterate, she still managed to fill this affidavit in order to increase her pension. It was known that she had desired this money in order to help those who were just liberated and had nothing to live off of. Although Harriet was struggling financially herself, she was altruistic in the sense that others came before her. The monument of Harriet Tubman shows society today of her long living legacy. President Barack Obama's administration stated, whereas members of the Congress, the Governor of Maryland, the City of Cambridge, and other state, local, and private interests have expressed support for the timely establishment of a national monument in Dorchester County commemorating Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, to protect the integrity of the evocative landscape and preserve its historic features.